We live in interesting times.
For the headlines.
Rescue teams are removing bodies from the destroyed Marsh Harbor shanty towns, the Mud and Pigeon Peas. The area is where an overwhelming majority of Haitian migrants resided, and the death toll following Hurricane Dorian has now risen to 50, with that number expected to rise.
President Donald Trump announces the firing of hawkish National Security Advisor John Bolton, a move widely seen as boosting the president's push to negotiate with U.S. foes in Afghanistan, North Korea, and other trouble spots.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed to annex parts of the West Bank if re-elected during a press conference in Tel Aviv.
United Kingdom's parliament may be called back after Scotland's highest court ruled Prime Minister's suspension of parliament illegal in Edinburgh on Wednesday.
I'm Alma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world. Thank you very much for joining us.
We welcome our viewers here in the Philippines and around the world. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sam Cepeda.
And now to the news. Rescue teams remove bodies from the destroyed Marsh Harbor shanty towns, the Mud and Pigeon Peas. The area is where an overwhelming majority of Haitian migrants reside, and the death toll following Hurricane Dorian has now risen to 50, with that number expected to rise. Take a look.
We checked in with the Emergency Operations Center yesterday, and we received an assignment that we needed to do a body search in the area of Mud, which is where we are. That's the name of the sector. It's called Mud. And it's a shanty town that was pretty much completely washed away. The challenges for this operation have been immense. We have not seen anything like a debris field like this. There are multiple areas that are impassable. We have a difficult time because, of course, we have to make sure that our dogs are okay. There are multiple hazards here.
The Mud shanty town in Marsh Harbor, where many of the Haitians on Abaco lived, was turned into a pile of rubble by the storm as it ripped apart their flimsy homes. Many of the tens of thousands of Haitians in the Bahamas have arrived illegally and fear being sent home. Haitians have lived in the Bahamas for hundreds of years, but many suffer from poverty, a lack of education, and prejudice, in part because of their religious practices, which for some may include a belief in voodoo. The death toll from the monster storm has reached 50, but Bahamian officials said they expect it to rise significantly in the days to come. According to the Nassau Guardian newspaper, 4,800 people have been evacuated from Abaco and nearby Grand Bahama Island, which was also decimated by the storm.
The government, if you cannot help us, well, you need to give us and let somebody step in what could really help us, because we seek help. We lost everything. We lost our life. We lost our family. You understand? People are unaccounted for. You understand what I'm saying? We really need help. That's the message to the government. Help, please, because we're not getting none.
From this morning, I only drank a cup of tea from this morning. Look up the time right now. All right, they put me there. I don't know nothing. Nobody don't say nothing about us. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say and what to do. So I need help.
We could try and find jobs. A lot of us, we lost our passport, we lost documents and everything. So it'll be hard to find jobs with no documents.
The Bahamas Press, a tabloid on the islands, is reporting thousands of corpses being buried on the Abaco Islands. The Business Insight reports that, quote, even a week after Dorian made landfall as a Category 5 storm, there were still dead bodies scattered around the Mud and Pigeon Peas shanty towns that are home to a community of mostly poor Haitian workers. With temperatures in the high 80s during the day, a stench of rotting bodies has overtaken the communities.
The National Weather Service in North Carolina confirmed that An EF2 tornado hit Emerald Isle while Hurricane Dorian lashed the Carolinas. Our ABC correspondent from the U.S., Bernadette Ragini, reports from North Carolina.
Hurricane Dorian made its way along the coast of South Carolina and North Carolina as a Category 2 hurricane. Throughout the day, rain came down causing flooding in various areas. Thousands were without power throughout the states of South Carolina and North Carolina, which contributed to traffic lights not working in various intersections. Electrical poles were also reportedly on fire, creating dangerous situations to the public. Several tornadoes caused damages around the region. Today, cloudy skies are forecasted in the region, and many are seeing the aftermath of Hurricane Dorian. Leaves and downed branches lay across the streets, empty parking lots as businesses open at a later time. The cleanup has started to restore what the hurricane left behind. From Goldsboro, North Carolina, I am Bernadette Regini for Eagle News, 1 with 25.
In other news, President Trump announced the firing of his hawkish national security advisor, John Bolton, a move widely seen as boosting the president's push to negotiate with U.S. foes in Afghanistan, North Korea, and other trouble spots. President Trump, who said he had agreed strongly with Bolton on policy, announced via Twitter, "I asked John for his resignation, which was given to me this morning." A replacement, the White House's fourth national security chief in less than 3 years, would be named next week, Trump said. Bolton, who had been rescheduled to give a press conference at the White House on an unrelated matter, denied being fired, and he insisted that he had resigned. Now, the news coming days after President Trump caused uproar by revealing he was canceling secret talks with Afghanistan's Taliban stunned Washington. Bolton is a veteran and controversial figure closely linked to the invasion of Iraq and other aggressive U.S. foreign policy decisions. He had been seen as one of the main driving forces in the White House's muscular approach to Iran, North Korea, Venezuela, and elsewhere. Famous for his large mustache and ever-present yellow legal pad, the hardline former U.S. ambassador to the UN had pushed back against President Trump's dramatic, though so far stumbling, attempts to negotiate with the Taliban and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. According to U.S. media reports, President Trump's extraordinary but failed bid to fly Taliban leaders into the presidential retreat at Camp David last weekend sparked a major final row.
Meanwhile, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo cautioned that National Security Advisor John Bolton's exit should not be interpreted as heralding strategy changes. He said President Trump was well within his rights to fire the National Security Advisor. The diplomat and U.S. Secretary of Treasury Steven Mnuchin faced repeated questions about the fallout from Bolton's acrimonious exit from the White House this Tuesday. Let's listen in.
So last night the president asked for Ambassador Bolton's resignation. As I understand it, it was received this morning. Yeah. I'm never surprised.
Well, let me ask you this.
And I don't mean that on just this issue. And I think Secretary Mnuchin would say the same thing. We work very closely with the President of the United States. I think we have a pretty good understanding of how he's thinking about things. I think you'd agree, Stephen, at nearly all times. And so, our mission says not to talk about these inner workings in the palace intrigue that I know you are so curious about. Would the policy be different absent any individual being here? These have been the president's policies. We give him our best wisdom. We share with him our understanding. When I was intelligence director, we did our best to make sure he had the facts and data available so he could make good decisions. But I don't think any leader around the world should make any assumption that because someone of us departs, that President Trump's foreign policy will change in a material way.
Is this national security team a mess?
Absolutely not. That's the most ridiculous question I've ever heard of.
The picture, and we know that Ambassador Bolton and President Trump disagree.
As these actions show, today's executive order by President Trump adds further muscle to U.S. counterterrorism efforts. It will help us to ensure that the deadly attacks of September 11th that occurred 18 years ago this week are never repeated on American soil. Never.
Policy was not aligned with the president's philosophy.
The one thing I would just say, follow up, because the president's been very clear on this. The president's view of the Iraq war and Ambassador Bolton's was very different. The president's made that clear.
For you to do your job and for the administration to accomplish the president.
The president's entitled to the staff that he wants at any moment. This is a staff person who works directly for the president of the United States, and he should have people that he trusts and values and whose efforts and judgments benefit him in delivering American foreign policy. It's what, as cabinet member, Secretary Mnuchin and I try and do each and every day, and when the president makes a decision like this, he's well within his rights to do so.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo also said that he had a number of foreign policy differences with ex-National Security Advisor John Bolton.
I don't talk about the inner workings of how this all goes. We all give our candid opinions. There were many times Ambassador Bolton and I disagreed. That's to be sure. But that's true for lots of people with whom I interact. My mission set is always to make sure, as I run the Department of State, is to deliver America's diplomacy and to work with the team, whether it's the Treasury or the President's staff, to make sure we get good outcomes. I know everyone's talked about this for an awfully long time. There were definitely places that Ambassador Bolton and I had different views about how we should proceed.
In other news, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed to annex parts of the West Bank if re-elected. During a press conference in Tel Aviv, Prime Minister Netanyahu used a map to point to the areas he promises to put under Israeli sovereignty if he gets re-elected, which he says would include the Jordan Valley and northern Dead Sea.
וזה ממש מעבר לפינה. זה מציב לפנינו אתגר גדול, וזה מציב לפנינו גם הזדמנות גדולה. זאת הזדמנות היסטורית. שעת כושר חד פעמית להחיל את הריבונות הישראלית על יישובינו ביהודה ושומרון וגם על אזורים נוספים בעלי חשיבות לביטחוננו, למורשתנו ולעתידנו. אבל יש מקום אחד שבו ניתן להחיל את הריבונות הישראלית מיד לאחר הבחירות. אם מקבל מכם, אזרחי ישראל, מנדט ברור לעשות זאת. בחודשים האחרונים הובלתי מאמץ מדיני בכיוון הזה, ובימים האחרונים בשלו התנאים המדיניים לכך. היום אני מודיע על כוונתי להחיל עם הקמת הממשלה הבאה את הריבונות הישראלית על בקעת הירדן וצפון ים המלח.
Meanwhile, Secretary General of the Palestine Liberation Organization, or PLO, and Chief Negotiator Saeb Erekat condemned Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's deeply controversial pledge to annex West Bank's Jordan Valley if re-elected during the September 17 polls.
Annexing the Jordan Valley in any way or form means one thing, means the burying of any prospects of peace between Palestinians and Israelis. Prime Minister Netanyahu is determined to make sure that the prospects of peace between Palestinians and Israelis are buried totally. I see it as part of the American peace plan, or the so-called peace plan, or the deal of, I don't know which deal and I don't know which century. But 2 weeks ago, ex-National Security Advisor Bolton and Friedman were in the Jordan Valley advocating the annexation of the Jordan Valley. So what deal are we waiting for? We are days away from the United Nations General Assembly's 74th session. We hope that the international community will stand tall and shoulder to shoulder to hold Mr. Netanyahu accountable, to hold the Israeli government accountable.
Following Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's announcement of his plans to annex West Bank settlements if re-elected, UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric had this to say.
The Secretary General's position has always been clear and consistent. Unilateral actions are not helpful in the peace process. Our position today is unchanged and is reflected in relevant UN resolutions. Any Israeli decision to impose its laws, jurisdiction, and administration in the occupied West Bank is without any international legal effect. I think such a prospect would be devastating to the potential of reviving negotiations, regional peace, and the very essence of a two-state solution.
Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that the U.S. peace plan, which is expected to be released after the upcoming Israeli elections, would provide an opportunity for Israel to annex the West Bank and other areas. Elections to the Knesset are due to be held on September 17, after Netanyahu failed to form a governing coalition after previous elections held back in April. The Jordan Valley accounts for around one-third of the West Bank, located along the eastern side of the territory along the Jordanian border. It's almost all in Area C, the roughly 60% of the West Bank Israel fully controls. It's home to only 9,000 or so of more than 400,000 Israelis living in the West Bank settlements, according to Israeli statistics, but is strategically important and hosts many Israeli businesses, largely agricultural. Some 65,000 Palestinians live in the Jordan Valley, according to Israeli human rights group B'Tselem. Israeli right-wing politicians have long viewed the area as part of the territory they would never retreat from, seeing it as the country's eastern border. Palestinians, meanwhile, believe that Israeli control so deep into the West Bank effectively ends the possibility of an independent Palestinian state. They also say it amounts to an apartheid-like arrangement for Palestinian communities there.
United Kingdom's parliament may be called back after Scotland's highest court ruled Prime Minister's suspension of parliament illegal in Edinburgh on Wednesday.
This is a unanimous decision by Scotland's highest court that the prorogation of Parliament by Boris Johnson was unlawful. And as Tommy Shepherd, one of my co-petitioners, has pointed out, now, for every moment Parliament remains prorogued, the British government are breaking the law. So we, as politicians, are calling for Parliament to be recalled so that we can get on with scrutinising what this government is up to in relation to Brexit. But as a Scottish MP and a Scottish lawyer, I am very proud that Scotland's highest court has made this unanimous ruling. The British government have appealed it to the Supreme Court. We have 3 days set aside in the Supreme Court next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, when the Supreme Court will look at this case and also the English case and the Northern Irish case.
And I am thrilled. I'm thrilled for every single person in the United Kingdom who believes in elected representative democracy that Scotland's highest court agrees.
But our next move is to demand the recall of Parliament. We need to get back representing the people who elected us, the people who put us there at this time of political crisis.
Johnson says the decision to suspend or prorogue Parliament until October 14 is a routine move, allowing his government to launch a new legislative agenda. But critics accuse him of trying to silence parliamentary opposition to his threat to leave the European Union on October 31, even if he has failed to agree divorce terms with Brussels. If Johnson fails to secure a deal, he insists the country will leave anyway, to the outrage of many MPs who believe a no-deal exit would bring huge disruption.
They have now twice denied.
In other news, members of the cabinet of Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe arrived at his official residence in Tokyo on Wednesday, as the list of the new ministers was announced following a reshuffle. Most notably, Toshimitsu Motegi, who is known for his role as a negotiator in the Trans-Pacific Partnership and a Japan-US trade deal, will become the new foreign minister. Motegi will be taking over the position from Taro Kono, who will become the new defense minister. Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Taro Aso and Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshihide Suga will remain in their positions, which they assumed with Prime Minister Abe's coming to power in 2012. Shinjiro Koizumi, son of former Prime Minister Junichiro Koizumi, and himself, a future Prime Minister hopeful, will be the Environment Minister. He's set to become Japan's third youngest minister since World War II, with the age of 38.
Wednesday marks 18 years since the 9/11 terror attacks claimed as many as 3,000 lives in the United States. Now, A cancer patient has started a lawsuit against New York City authorities, claiming he was exposed to toxins at Ground Zero in the wake of the attacks. The 37-year-old Richard Farrer is among tens of thousands who, according to the World Trade Center Health Program, had been diagnosed with aggressive forms of cancers at a young age, seemingly as a result of being exposed to the carcinogenic substances that were released following the attacks. The young father believes the officials could have warned residents to stay away from Ground Zero latent with dioxins and asbestos. The officials could have protected them.
There's evidence to support my exposure to the disaster area following 9/11 may have caused cancer to develop inside of my body. One of the main reasons for believing that is that the average age of a colon cancer victim is 68. Most people don't have to even begin colon cancer screening until they're around 50. I was 35 at diagnosis. I think it's pretty well documented that the officials could have done more, and almost to the point that not only could they have done more, they blatantly told us that it was safe to be down here.
I think the government failed to protect the victims by doing quite the opposite of protecting them. They emphatically said the air is safe to breathe less than a week or just about a week after the attacks, and we've now known how horribly wrong that statement was. The air was not safe to breathe, and it wasn't safe to breathe a week after the attacks, and it wasn't safe to breathe in July, almost a year after the attacks, because chemicals burned for 99 days emitting into the air horrible cancer-causing toxins.
We all listened to the government, the city officials that told us that everything was fine, the air was clean, you know, go back to your day jobs, go back to work, live life like you normally would. So for work, for pleasure, for recreation, I carried out my normal daily life activities, and here I am 18 years later fighting for my life. My wife asks me, do I believe terrorists caused my cancer? I don't think I'll ever know the truth of that, or know the fact of that. I do know, though, that I'm suffering unexpectedly, and I had also been exposed for a significant period of time following 9/11.
In Oakville, in Canada, members of the Church of Christ took time off from their busy schedules to express their support for the men and women in uniform who put their lives on the line for the safety of their community. Here's Rex Adam for the report.
Members of the Iglesia Ni Cristo Church of Christ from the local congregation of Burlington conducts another successful Police Appreciation Day, this time with the Halton Regional Police Force in the town of Oakville. The town of Oakville is a vibrant lakeside community under the jurisdiction of Halton Region and is part of the Greater Toronto Area. In line with the global simultaneous INC giving projects, the volunteers in this part of the world are actively involved in giving back to the community projects such as this.
Whenever we have an activity like INC giving, I wanted to be part of that because I want to show that I care and I love the people who works for our community.
Today, they are recognizing the Oakville Police Force for their tireless devotion to public service and for continuously creating a positive impact to the lives of the residents.
They do so much and it goes unnoticed many times by a lot of people. And we want to recognize their efforts, their bravery going out there and making sure that the communities are safe. And we're here to really thank them.
Led by resident minister Brother James Lajeras, the volunteers visited the Oakville Police Station in order to present the Certificate of Appreciation along with the lovely gift baskets and God's Message magazines to the police representatives of Superintendent Nick Milanovich and Operations Inspector Dave Stewart.
It's a wonderful thing that you're doing, recognizing people, helping people, charity. It's a very important thing, and it really touched our hearts that you wanted to help spread that message to us. Thank you.
For the appreciation that they have received today, this is what the officers have to say.
I think it's great. We live in a time where relations between the community and police are sometimes strained, a lot of misunderstanding. So to get some appreciation from the community and some interaction on a personal level is really good.
It's really nice to have someone from the community, a whole group of people from the community reach out and express their appreciation. It's not always the case with the public that we hear their thanks, but it's really nice to know that our work's appreciated.
After the presentation of gifts and certificate, the officers delightedly showed the volunteers the newly upgraded community room and their state-of-the-art vehicles, while answering the curious questions of the volunteers. The volunteers, on the other hand, shared the many activities that they do in various parts of the community. The visit was short yet very successful, as both groups got to know more of each other's contribution to the neighborhood. The volunteers so much love this giving back to the community projects that they're already looking forward for the upcoming ones. So what's next for INC giving volunteers from the local congregation of Burlington? Let's find out. Please stay tuned. For Eagle News Service, this is Rex Adam, your Canada Bureau.
Thank you, Rex. Eagle News will be back with the business news right after this break. Stay tuned.
Tungkulin ng MTRCB ang mag-provide na appropriate ratings sa lahat ng TV shows.
In the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business every Saturday from 5 to 6 p.m. Open for Business, from vision to action.
For business news, this is Cesar Vallejos. Fitch Ratings is confident that the Philippine economy will remain among the strongest in the region this year, with a growth of 6.1% as recovery is seen in the second half of the year. In a report on the APAC Sovereign Credit Review for the third quarter, the debt rater said the country, which has an investment grade rating of BBB with stable outlook, Fitch Ratings said that the below target output in the first half of the year is projected to improve in the remaining quarters. The agency is maintaining its full year 2019 growth forecast of 6.1%, continuing to place the Philippines among the region's fastest growing economies, it said Tuesday. In the first half of the year, growth as measured by the gross domestic product expanded by an average of 5.5%, lower than the government's 6 to 7% full year target. The weak output was attributed to the impact of the delay in the approval of this year's national budget and the weak external environment. The negative external front is seen to hamper domestic expansion in the next 2 years, with growth projected to be around 6.3%. Fitch Ratings also noted that overheating risks have subsided after the total of 175 basis points increase in the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas key policy rates last year. The rate hikes were done to help manage inflation expectations, since inflation was on the rise due to supply-side factors. Inflation peaked at 6.7% in September and October last year, exceeding the government's 2 to 4% target band. Since then, inflation has decelerated and slowed to 1.7% last August. Fitch Ratings projects inflation to average at 3.1% this year, within the government's 2 to 4% target band until 2021. Philippine merchandise exports continued to be resilient despite escalating U.S.-China trade frictions and global slowdown, partly due to continued market access in Southeast Asia, Japan, the European Union, as well as U.S. and China, said Department of Trade and Industry Secretary Ramon Lopez. Export growth was positive for the fourth straight month in July at 3.5 year-on-year as the country's exports to U.S. and China expanded 8.9 and 8.5 year-on-year respectively. In July, U.S. was the Philippines' biggest export market with 16.9 export share, while China was the third largest at 13.9 share. Our market access into the U.S. has been supported by the U.S. Generalized System of Preferences, which accords duty-free status to more than 3,000 products, as well as EU, which gives GSP Plus duty-free status to over 6,000 products. Also, market access into China has improved in light of closer trade relations with the Philippines, reinforced by DTI's more intense export promotion efforts, said Secretary Lopez. As a result, the Philippines stood as the third best export performer in the list of 11 Asian trade-oriented economies for the month, next only to Vietnam and Thailand. Meanwhile, the June export growth rate was revised upward to 3.3% from 1.5%. Bigger Philippine exports of electronics, machinery, and transport equipment, fruits and vegetables led by bananas, gold, and other mineral products largely contributed to the July performance. Unisys Corporation has warned the government and corporations in the Philippines of vulnerabilities in data security, as it found in a research that Filipino consumers reported the highest level of tech security concern among 13 countries surveyed across the globe. In the Unisys Security Index, the Philippines received a security concern score of 234 points, or 59 points higher than the global average, and is 2 points higher than its score the year prior. The index has a maximum score of 300 points, which represents the highest level of concern. According to the report, Filipinos are concerned about data security, with 90% of those surveyed saying they are seriously concerned about unauthorized access to their personal information. Likewise, 87% said they are concerned about hacking incidents and 84% bank card fraud. The report also found that 36% of Filipinos suffered from a data breach, the most common of which is email hacking, social engineering scams, information fraud, and illegal access to social media accounts. Unisys Director for Security Services for Asia Pacific, Ashwin Paul, said the report unravels the risks that need to be remedied in order to avoid the loss of data and the loss of business. Consumers hold the business or government agency responsible for not protecting their data, and many Filipinos are taking action. Among Filipinos who report they have suffered a data breach last year, almost a quarter, or 24%, say they took legal action. 1 in 5, or 21%, stopped dealing with the organization, such as close their account, and 18% exposed the issue on social media. This results in customer loss, reputation damage, legal disputes, and inhibits take-up of online or digital services, he said. Emmanuel Ray Caintic, Department of Information and Communications Technology Assistant Secretary for Digital Philippines, added that with data more relevant than ever, the government hopes to be at the forefront of consumer data protection through critical infrastructure protection, National Computer Emergency Response Team, protection of government information systems, and child online protection. In addition, we are set to roll out the cybersecurity management system to more government agencies by 2021. Complementing this initiative, we are engaging schools to educate and train the youth on the latest trends and issues on cybersecurity. The Unisys Security Index measures concerns of consumers on issues related to national, personal, financial, and internet security. Reflecting their high level of concern about data security, Filipinos are very selective about how and when they support their personal information being collected or shared. This appears to be driven by a combination of trust in the government organization involved, the purpose given for how the data will be used, and the benefit to the individual. To gain public support, organizations must show they are addressing all three criteria, Unisys Asia Pacific Vice President Lisandra Smuter said. Apple unveiled its iPhone 11 models Tuesday with a price cut for the most basic models, while also laying out plans for streaming and gaming services as it bids to weather the slump in the global smartphone market. Price appeared to be a key consideration as the tech giant reduced the entry-level price for the iPhone 11 to $699 and undercut rivals for its gaming and streaming television subscriptions. Apple unveiled 3 versions of the iPhone 11, including Pro models with triple camera and other advanced features, starting at $999 and $1,099, unchanged from last year's prices, touting upgraded features including ultra-wide camera lenses. The surprise from Apple was the reduction in the starting price of $699, down from $749 for the iPhone XR a year ago, even as many premium devices are being priced around $1,000.
For faster autofocus.
We shared the all-new Apple Arcade, a game subscription service unlike any other, coming to the App Store this month. And Apple TV Plus with powerful and unique Apple originals from today's most creative storytellers, coming to the Apple TV app beginning November 1st.
iPhone 11 comes in 6 new colors with an all-new purple, white, yellow, green, black, and product red. It has a 6.1-inch liquid retina display with True Tone, wide color, tap to wake, and haptic touch in even more places with iOS 13, like contextual menus. iPhone is the world's most popular camera, and it gets even better with iPhone 11. We have an amazing dual camera system with an all-new wide camera, with a new sensor with 100% focus pixels for faster autofocus, 3 times faster in low light. And we have a new ultra-wide camera with 120-degree field of view.
Today, we're excited to tell you
Apple's announcements appeared to be aimed at emphasizing value as the company looks to shift its business model to reduce its dependence on smartphones and tie in digital content and other services to its devices. The TV Plus service will launch November 1 in more than 100 countries at $4.99 per month and will include a powerful and inspiring lineup of original shows, movies, and documentaries. While Apple's streaming service will have limited content at first, its price is below the $6.99 for the forthcoming Disney Plus service and the more expensive plans from Netflix. Apple is featuring scripted dramas, comedies, and movies, as well as children's programs in the service, which will compete against streaming giants like Netflix and Amazon. Apple said customers who purchase an iPhone, iPad, Apple TV, iPod Touch, or Mac will get the first year of the service for free. The company's online gaming subscription service, Apple Arcade, will launch next week.
We are thrilled to launch Apple Arcade on the App Store, the world's first game subscription service for mobile, desktop, and TV. Apple Arcade is the only place you can get unlimited access to over 100 groundbreaking, exclusive new games made for iPhone, iPad, Mac, and Apple TV. You can't find these games on any other mobile platform or subscription service. We are thrilled to launch Apple Arcade on the App Store.
The new service, which will also cost $4.99 per month, will include more than 100 game titles made for Apple devices and will be available in some 150 countries. Apple also unveiled updates to its iPad tablet and Apple Watch smartwatch. Lamborghini's first ever production electrified supercar was unveiled to public on Tuesday at the 2019 Frankfurt Motor Show. The newest hybrid supercar will be known as Sian FKP37. It is named in honor of the late Ferdinand Piëch, who recently passed away and masterminded the VW Group for many years. While the moniker Sian translates as lightning bolt in a northern Italian dialect, the new electric vehicle, or EV, does not store energy in a lithium-ion battery pack, but instead it has a supercapacitor, an entirely different way of storing electricity developed in cooperation with the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. The Sian FKP37 is capable of going from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in just 2.8 seconds and will go on to a top speed of over 349 kilometers per hour. That makes the hybrid Sian the fastest and most powerful Lamborghini ever made. Only 63 models will ever be built, all of which have been sold at a cost of over $2.2 million prior to its debut. And that's it for business and technology news. I am Cesar Vallejos. I'm one with 25. Eagle News International will be back. Stay with us.
Mga kamag-anak, kaibigan at kababayan po namin sa Middle East and North Africa, masayang balita ang hatid po namin sa inyo. Ang Net25 ay makakasama nyo na sa inyong mga tahanan. Mapapanood nyo na ang inyong mga paboritong programa sa pamamagitan ng OSN, ang pinakamalaking entertainment network sa buong rehiyon. Sa Channel 725, maihahatid na namin sa inyo ang mga pangunahing balita at mahahalagang impormasyon. Kaya makisaya, makisalo tuwing umaga at panoorin ang mga programa ng mga hinahangaang celebrities and OPM artists, same day as the Philippines. You can also watch Net25 live and on demand anytime, anywhere on any mobile device on OSN Play. Kaya tawag na sa OSN to learn more on how to get Net25. Sa Net25 on OSN, siguradong at home ka dito.
Much of Kuala Lumpur's skyline was covered in smog on Tuesday morning as forest fires raging across Indonesia carried thick clouds of haze across Malaysia's borders. Here's more.
Tak okey ya. Satu buat kesehatan, buat secara umum buat pemandangan macam itu. Sebab kalau buat kesehatan mata sakit, iya susah sedikit. Sebab di sini udara jadi kotor.
Despite progress in national prevention strategies, one person dies by suicide every 40 seconds, according to the World Health Organization's Director General. And he lamented this, highlighting key findings. She lamented this, highlighting the key findings of the agency's latest report on global suicide estimates. Speaking in Geneva ahead of World Suicide Prevention Day, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said every death is a tragedy for family, friends, and colleagues, yet many more suicides can be prevented.
Suicide is a serious public health problem. Globally, we estimate that there are around 800,000 deaths by suicide every year. This means there is a death from suicide every 40 seconds. So we really have to do something about it and address this serious problem.
In my experience, I've learned that I'm not alone. I'm not alone with my loss, and I'm not alone with my grief. And my husband was not alone when he was suffering either. And I feel that those that are suffering need to know that they're not alone. And the family and friends, that loved ones that are suffering, they also need to know that they're not alone, and that there's support, and that there's people that are willing to talk.
Overcome problems.
Suicide is now the leading cause of death among youth aged 15 to 29. An estimated 20% of global suicides are a result of pesticide poisoning.
Pesticide suicides are an important issue because it is estimated that 1/5 of all suicides are happening by self-ingestion with pesticides. This is an important issue, particularly in low and middle income countries, in agricultural areas where pesticides are readily available in the home of farmers. So in a situation of distress, a person in an impulsive way may take the pesticide. However, we know that some people do not really want to die in this moment, and this is why it is important to reduce the access, the easily availability of the most deadly pesticides so that the person can be saved. It is always important with regard to suicide prevention that we have to listen to the people around us. We have to take it seriously when someone says they do not want to live any longer, or they even very concretely say that they want to take their life. So WHO wants to give a message that it's important to talk and to listen to each other, to seek for help, but also to offer help to others around us. And every one of us has a role to play in suicide prevention, so we all can offer to listen to the people around us in case they're in distress or they need help.
Hundreds dead in the Philippines, a threefold increase of cases in Vietnam, hospitals overrun in Malaysia, Myanmar and Cambodia. Dengue is ravaging Southeast Asia this year, due in part to rising temperatures and low immunity to new strains. But one group of scientists is rolling out trials to breed dengue-resistant bugs in a bid to tackle one of the world's leading mosquito-borne illnesses, raising hopes the disease can finally be beaten. The World Mosquito Program, WMP, has pioneered a method where male and female Aedes aegypti mosquitoes are infected with the disease-resistant bacteria called Wolbachia before being released into the wild. In a matter of weeks, baby mosquitoes are born carrying Wolbachia, which acts as a disease buffer for the bugs, making it harder for them to pass on not only dengue, but Zika, chikungunya, and yellow fever.
Wolbachia is a species of bacteria. When it's introduced to the Aedes aegypti mosquito, it's help the mosquito to fight back the virus that's to cause dengue.
For this, we think that method is very effective, very good, and there's no harm to the people of the common when we release the mosquito.
Many countries are also fogging neighborhoods with insecticides, effective in the short term, though the mosquitoes often come back in just a few days or develop resistance to the chemical killers. Dengue is ravaging Southeast Asia this year due in part to rising temperatures and low immunity to new strains. It's killed 2,000 people and affected 670,000 across the region. Experts say it's the worst outbreak in years.
An event meant to raise awareness, support, and funds for epilepsy was held at the 20th Toronto International Busker Fest for Epilepsy. Ashley Sakma reports.
Toronto, Canada's Woodbine Park Beach hosts the 20th Annual Toronto International Busker Fest for Epilepsy. It is one of North America's widely recognized street performer festivals that focuses on entertainment, music, and circus artistry while raising funds for and spreading awareness about epilepsy. The Toronto International Busker Fest was first established in 1999 by Epilepsy Toronto to bring entertainment, business, and charity together and build a fun and action-packed experience for the community while increasing public awareness of epilepsy.
The Busker Fest, the Toronto Busker Fest started 20 years ago as an idea from our executive director, Jeff Bob, as a fundraising idea. And so over the 20 years, we've seen growth and a few location changes, and now we're here as a destination event in Woodbine Park. It's our 4th year, and it's the largest fundraising event for Epilepsy Toronto. It's also the largest epilepsy fundraising event to our knowledge in the world, and it's organized by a charity. So it's the largest arts festival organized by a charity, which is Epilepsy Toronto.
This has been excellent. This has been an amazing event. Toronto's International Busker Fest has been a really interesting event. They've been able to. I've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of people here, and everyone has said it was amazing, and they've had a lot of fun here, and it's been a new experience for a lot of people, and I think that's what it's about. There's not much new you can do in Toronto, and I believe this is definitely should be one of them, and it's the 20th anniversary, this one, and it's probably going to go on for a lot more, so it's going to be great. It just gets better and better, I think.
It's a great cause, number one. I think there's so little known about epilepsy that this is a great way to get that message out, and it's just a lot of fun as far as for the kids, you know, all these buskers from around the world, not just here in Canada. You're seeing a great variety, real talent, people doing their own thing, you know, to the beat of their own drum, literally in some cases. So I think it's a really great thing for families and anyone else to see.
Epilepsy is the 4th most common neurological disorder that affects all ages. Records show that it has affected over 40,000 Torontonians. Through this event, the community can donate and enjoy classic nonverbal shows and breathtaking stunts.
The Toronto Busker Fest can help spread epilepsy awareness because we do such a great job informing the not only the performers and they share the news online, but it brings together. We've got all this epilepsy information. It brings out all the volunteers, the online promotions, the media. Everyone just helps and to spread the same word, the same cause, that this is to fundraise for epilepsy. We've got over 40,000 people in Toronto living with epilepsy, so it's really important to know what to do if you see someone have a seizure, and just to treat everyone as equals.
The Toronto International Busker Fest for Epilepsy features hundreds of street performances of comedians, fire jugglers, acrobats, aerial artists, clowns, beatboxers, and much more. In Toronto, Ashley Sakmar, Eagle News, I'm 1 with 25.
Matt Damon and Christian Bale present Ford versus Ferrari at the Toronto International Film Festival. Take a look. It's a film recounting the rivalry between the American manufacturer Ford and the Italian firm Ferrari before the prestigious Le Mans 24-hour car race in 1966. Shot for around $100 million, largely without computer-generated special effects by Fox before its Disney takeover, it is a rare Hollywood big-budget project that is not a sequel or a superhero movie.
It's a dynamic of a man who is a dad and who is a husband and who is not a megalomaniac, who is living life at 230 miles an hour, not knowing if he can stop at the end of it.
The chance to work with Christian Bale.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys.
At the core of the movie, it's about what we do when we work together, what we can accomplish when we work together, how we lift each other up when we fail. And I think the friendships we make through work are some of the most powerful friendships in our life. The computers did nothing but put crowds in the stands and extend the stands and the backgrounds, but the cars are for real. We've got cars driving to and from camera all the time. I didn't want to do another VFX extravaganza.
Ford versus Ferrari, the new auto racing movie starring Christian Bale and Matt Damon, is a proud throwback to an era when Hollywood made authentic blockbusters for grown-ups, its director said Tuesday. The movie portrays how Henry Ford II strove to make his U.S. car brand fashionable once again by hiring a designer and driver capable of beating Enzo Ferrari's Italian racing machines at the famous Le Mans 24-hour race in 1966. Director Mangold said he avoided special effects in Ford versus Ferrari for the key race scenes because for performers, it's like acting inside a sandwich bag. Ford versus Ferrari, which outside North America is titled Le Mans 66, hits theaters November 15. The Toronto International Film Festival runs until Sunday.
Do you think you can beat Ferrari?
Not control. We're lighter, we're faster. When that don't work, we're nastier.
We're gonna make history.
You ready? I was born ready, Mr. Shelby. Hit it.
Wow, that was cool. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr. Also check out our boards and Pinterest and pictures on Instagram. I'm Sam Cepeda. Thanks for joining us.
I'm Alma Angeles and we're one with 25.